Guys, today is Inauguration Day in 2025. There's some people out there that are extremely happy of what's going on today, and there's some people who think that the world is just falling apart. It doesn't matter to me which side of the road you're on. We need to focus more on the things that we can control. And we need to really look at this country, and even though we want to complain and bitch and moan, what we need to do is we need to take a look at all of the freedoms that we have, all the freedoms that we still have and continue to have, and look at the blessings that we have in our life, guys. And I wanted to reshare an old episode that I put out quite a while ago, an interview with a man that I think is just absolutely amazing. It goes by the name of Drago Dzieran. I'm not going to talk a lot here, but check out this episode. It's one of my favorites.
Leaders are not born in a womb. They are forged through heat, pressure, and a whole lot of sweat. The Fire Forged Leader podcast serves the audience through exploring leadership at work, in the community, and with the family, using a practical perspective and real-life experiences from the host Steve Baumgartner and his guests in the Forge. Now, it's time to enter the Forge with the Fire Forged Leader.
All right, welcome everybody again to the Fire Forged Leader podcast. I'd like to welcome on Drago Dzieran. Hopefully I said that right again.
You said it right. Yeah, you said it well. Thank you. Very good. Drago Dzieran. Sounds good. Thank you. It's good to be here, and I appreciate inviting me to your podcast. Thank you.
I definitely appreciate you being here. I've, like I told you before, I've been checking out the book. You know, everybody can see the book and behind Drago. If you're listening on audio only, it's called The Pledge to America. I highly recommend this book. It is definitely my favorite of the year so far. Drago's got a very interesting story. I'll let him tell the entire story, and I'll kind of poke some interesting spots along the way. But if you're watching this on video, you probably noticed that he's wearing the trident on his chest. But deeper than that, Drago really wears the American flag well. He grew up in a place where, you know, freedom was not an option, and then had the ability to come to the United States where he got to witness true freedom. So welcome again, Drago, and just like to kind of get into it, if that's all right with you.
Thanks, Steve. Again, it's good to be here. Just small, I do wear trident on the image in the book. That's because I'm in my uniform. But as you can see, I don't wear trident on my clothes. I prefer when I'm in my suit, I prefer to wear American flag because it is so much more than just the trident. It encompasses the trident. I'm very proud of being a SEAL, but I'm more proud of being an American citizen.
Yeah, and a heck of an American citizen that you are. I know I'm glad to have you over here. You've really, you know, through this book, you have really reinvigorated my feelings of being an American, if that makes any sense. You know, I've grown up in this country the whole time. I'm proud to be an American for sure, but you know, I get reminded a lot, right? I take it for granted most days of how beautiful of a country this is, you know, and look at the negative things about it, like a lot of Americans do. But this really reinvigorated me reading this book. To look at all the blessings that we have around, and you know, this thing called freedom, how wonderful it truly is. So I appreciate you for that, sir.
Well, thank you actually for saying this, because the sole purpose of this book was to be a prism, to be a lens through which you can see the greatness of America, the great things that American people accomplished and the freedom. So yeah, that's why I wrote this book. So people, it's not just how bad the communism and socialism is. Everybody knows that, but just to reading about those socialist atrocities, murders, persecutions, and it, people can see maybe a little bit clear, much more clear, how great America is, and the freedoms that we enjoy here in America. So that's the purpose of this book.
Well, that's awesome. It definitely gets the purpose across very, very well, Drago.
Thank you.
It rang clear for me for sure. So starting off in the early days, you know, I read portions of the book where, you know, you were playing with your brother out in basically buildings that were destroyed in World War II. And
yeah, please remember that, you know, I was born only 15 years after the Second World War. So this is less distance from the Second World War in time I was born than it is from the September 11, our national tragedy, when we lost thousands of people in those two buildings and in the airplane, and the time from September 11 till today. And, you know, see how fresh it is still in our minds. And so you can only imagine Poland after the Second World War, the generation that survived the Adolf Hitler socialism, National Socialism, they had the Holocaust, how it was ingrained in their psyche and how damaging it was to people, that Second World War experience. So yeah, that's very, very short time, 15 years after Second World War. I didn't think at that time, when I was growing up, it was like ages. That's like Second World War. That's just like forever long time ago. Now when I look back, it's like 15 years only. That's very close. There were everybody, many people were alive and well, those who survived Second World War. My mother, my father, my grandparents, they all survived Adolf Hitler socialism and Second World War.
Yeah, so you know, the book really starts when you're right around 5 years old, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, you look at that, it's all a frame of reference. You know, at 5 years old, that's 3 times your life, 15 years. So I can see why that would seem like a eternity to a 5-year-old. But it was also what you knew growing up, right? I mean, it was the only thing that you had ever seen.
Right, and please remember, there was 15 years after Second World War, the ruins, the damaged, destroyed buildings were still there. The unexploded munition was still laying around. I remember in schools, from the kindergarten, we were learning how these projectiles may look, and do not approach them, just call adults, because they were everywhere. There were people being killed by the mines still from the Second World War, and the unexploded ammunition. So that was still a threat at the time. And yeah, so we were playing, me, my brothers, my friends, used to play in our playgrounds were those destroyed buildings very often, were the buildings that were abandoned. And well, we find it was pretty interesting. I don't regret that. I think I had a nice, awesome childhood. Well, I know now from today's perspective, I know I was very poor. Like most of us in Poland was very poor, were very poor kids. But that was the reality. We didn't know any better, and I enjoy my childhood as much as any, I think, other kid would enjoy it. Didn't know any better.
I enjoyed the story in here where you're talking about, if I remember right, you painted yourself with oil. Is that correct? That you had oil smeared all over yourself?
Oh yeah, there was oil. There was actually tar.
Oh, so, tar.
Yeah. Because that was a little bit different than today. Maybe I am different, but at that time, we were cut loose. When we came back from school or from kindergarten, like my mom, like, okay, go play. And we did. So we were not restricted to the place where we play, the time. As long as before dark we were back home, we could go anywhere. I could go across the town. Nobody would stop me. And sometimes we did those excursions. So there was like kind of a lot of freedom for us. So it was a little bit different than it's today. If I would not take my child out of my sight. I would not allow it to do things that my child to do things that I used to do. And of course, like being on our own, when we found the barrel of tars, when they were building buildings, they were building the post-war damage, we used to climb into it. I mean, I was like almost knee deep in the tar, and especially on the hot day when this tar was still like kind of semi-liquid form. I remember my mom was crying so often because she had to clean us up. We didn't know how to clean that thing up, but we like to climb into those barrels of tars and play. I know that a lot of butter, and remember those at the time in Poland, food was scarce, especially good things like the very very luxurious things like butter. So my mom actually had to use that butter to clean us up, or oils, or whatever it was to remove the tars. And we play maybe for an hour, but it takes like 4 or 5 hours to clean us up. I remember that was my childhood.
Yeah, that's kind of switching gears here. Your mother plays a pretty big role in your childhood, along with your grandmother. And I'm just going to call it out right now. These two people are saints, in my opinion. Phenomenal people.
Thank you. They are. I mean, to put up with somebody like me, my brother, and my little sister at the time when we were like roaming free around the city, that was really something. They had to be saints, and but also there is more to it. They gave me moral values. They instill in me moral values, and being just a good person. And my mom was doing it against my father's will, who was hardcore communist, and in actually running that socialist state that what Poland was at the time. So he was very adamant about many things that my mother forbid me to do, calling certain people names. Like we were not allowed to call people names at home. My father was very quick to brand certain group of people, either enemies of the state or thieves, or in his words. And this is something that I'm still cringe when I think about it. So everything that was bad in Poland was immediately associated with the Jewish people. And that was done by communists on purpose to divide the society. And my father was very outspoken about this, and my mother constantly fought with it. I described it in the book, that my mother never allowed us to denigrate people but my father and the Communist Party, a lot of people loyal to Communist Party in Poland were doing just that. It became so common, so natural that it is sickening now thinking about it. Yeah. But thanks to my mother, her moral values, her Christian values, and the family values, I think thanks to that, it helped me and my siblings to survive the communism, and I mean the socialism and communism in fairly intact form, fairly not affected by the perversion, depravity of socialist state. Because I need to make a point here. People very often don't understand, or they just don't pay attention, and casually call countries in Eastern Europe behind Iron Curtain, they call them communist countries, communist states. But in fact, none of these countries was ever communist state. They were all socialist state, run by socialists or communists like my father, or Marxists, but they were socialist state. They were not communist states. So, I refer to them very often as a communist state because it is such a common saying, but technically they were not communist countries, they were socialist state. So we need to understand that, because I see here in our country, in America now, big enamoration with socialism. Like communism is bad, everybody knows, but socialism is such a great system. Well, it's not that quite great system as the graves of millions of victims and opponents of socialism can attest. Those graves around the world, not just in Eastern Europe. Wherever the socialism was tried, they are real victims, they are real dead people, whether it is Eastern Europe, whether it is Cuba or Venezuela today.
So going back to your mom and grandma, then I also want to say that they were very courageous. You have your father, who was a communist leader, and you had your grandma and mother, who would team together to make sure that you got to church, throwing you out the window like a football. I don't know. That's what I.
Well, yes, that's true. My father, as a communist, he did not allow in my household anybody to attend church. He was very adamant about it, and he says that this is just a superstition. But in reality, actually, I heard quite often him saying that he will lose his job and position in Communist Party, in the government, if we go to church. So imagine that. He says the church is incompatible with socialism. And so he didn't allow us to go. And I remember one Sunday when my grandmother came to my city to visit us, she didn't have any of it. She just said, we are going to church. If you stay in front of the door, because he stood in front of the door, he held the hands and said, you guys not going anywhere. And my grandmother said, you don't let us through the door, we go through the window. She walked me to the window. We were living on the first floor, opened the window. My mother went outside and she passed me right to the window like a football. And we went to church. He couldn't stop her. So later on, he somewhat relaxed and pretended he didn't see that we are going to church. And we were trying, he was around the house on Sundays because he was traveling a lot. So, but when he was around the house on Sundays, we were going in a different day, or we were going maybe later on when he didn't pay attention. And sometimes I think he just pretended that he doesn't see it, doesn't know it. But he was devout communist. And that was the problem in my family. And eventually my family fell apart because he left. He decided to go with the socialist idea, with the socialist communist ideology, socialist way of living. And we were left on our own. And I didn't see much difference because I hardly seen him anyway. But I noticed that we didn't have food to eat often. We didn't have a good clothes or warm clothes. So that thing I noticed, but I didn't kind of like associate it with him being gone. It's just like we knew we were poor. But that's how socialism works.
I would imagine a little bit of the reason why he left was so that he wouldn't have to fight that fight with the family, right? Because he was on the side of breaking down morality, which of course the church is morality. Is that fair to say, or?
Yes, it is. He was, like I say, devout communist. For him, church, faith, it was just a superstition. And for him, the good people were those people who subscribed to socialist ideas, the communist ideology, to Marxist teachings. Those were good people. And whoever was going to church or attending church or trying to reconcile these two, they were not good people. And he was very adamant about it, that building that socialism is so important that even if we kill a few people doing it, it's still well worth it for the society. So the way he said it is that, in his words, people do not understand how great socialism is. So we need to instill it in them. If they do not want to accept those teachings, they need to be eliminated from society. So they will have to be, let's say, cancelled. For at the beginning, they just disappear from public life. If they were artists, actors, poets, writers, they just disappear. You never heard about them. Their books were pulled out from the shelves, and they just like didn't exist. But if that didn't help, if they were still active, next thing was false charges, persecution, and often prison time. Oh, and of course, non-political charges. They were called criminals, just like I was called criminal when I was arrested and put in prison for printing newspapers and magazines behind the official censorship. So if that didn't help, if the prison didn't help, because there were cases that some of these opponents of socialism were so prominent, so prison didn't help. People still were asking about them. There were still people were still talking about them. The next thing was killing them, and they did. That's quite, even today, so many decades after the fall of communism, they're still finding, people in Poland are still finding graves of opponents of socialism. Some of them, they know who it is. They try to, and they cannot find it where that person was buried. And there's quite a few of them. And I describe in my book one of the cases, actually a couple of these cases, when one of it was Mr. Pilecki. He was a hero of Second World War in Poland, of the underground movement in Poland. Poland, by the way, had the largest underground movement, underground army opposing Hitler during the Second World War. That was the largest underground army. So Mr. Pilecki was who participated in that resistance. He was part of it, and he even volunteered to allow himself to be caught by Gestapo and sent to concentration camp, so he can write report and send them to the West. He did. He accomplished that. So, no, saying now that the West didn't know about the atrocities committed by Germans is absolutely not true, because these reports reached the West, reached the Polish government on exile in London, and were passed to Churchill and President Roosevelt. So West knew about these atrocities. Well, after that, he was able to, before he escaped from that camp, he was able to organize resistance groups in that camp too. But yeah, eventually he was able to escape. He did participate in Warsaw Uprising in 1944. And but after Second World War, he was branded a bandit, a criminal. He was hunted and eventually was arrested and executed by the communist government after show trial. So and today, people still don't know where communists and socialists buried him. There's quite a few of those. And the case that I know personally, because I was in Poland at the time, was a priest, Popiełuszko. So he was kidnapped by the secret police, tortured and murdered them in the river. Well, and you know, that things happen with impunity. In socialist state, basically, there is no controls and checks and controls for the government. So these people, these murderers, these socialists, they thought they got it away. They thought they would just like nothing happened. But their history, if you look back decades or hundreds of years ago, never works like that. Eventually, you come to justice, and there were those political goons killing Polish people and citizens opposing socialism did face the courts and justice after the communism and socialism fell in Poland. Matter of fact, I got a call maybe like 6 months ago from the city prosecutor, the city that I was arrested, inquiring about me being tortured, about my tortures in Poland at the time. So these socialist bandits are still being seek out and prosecuted in Poland till today. So at that time, though, we never thought it will happen. I never thought that socialism will ever fall in Poland, and then even more so in Eastern European, other Eastern European countries, but it did. So yeah, that's and so counting on being immune to justice, being immune to persecution, prosecution for crimes, is so prevalent in socialist state. It's not quite so, because eventually the socialism collapsed. Every single country that was instilled socialism collapsed. And later those people were hunted down, prosecuted. Some of them were hanged, and some of them were even hanged from the latten posts. This is how people hate that system of socialism that are slaving people. You know. And by the way, I always hear that, well, socialism is not so bad. That just only means that government pays for the police, builds the roads, and builds the schools. Well, that's pretty naive, and because if this is your definition of socialism, then Iran, Morocco, Pakistan would have to be socialist state as well. We know they are not. So
right.
So that's very naive thinking, and but people poorly educated and not understanding the socialism. And I'm not surprised about it, because in America, thanks God, people never experienced socialism yet. We just need to make sure that they never do. They deserve better.
So you already jumped into your arrest, but taking it back just a couple steps. After your father left, you talked about, being more poor than what you were when he was living there. And I remember in the book, you talked about how, there was these other kids that were living higher on the hog, had meat in their sandwiches. If I remember right, you'd go with some bread with some butter and sugar, right?
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah, so I just give you a little bit of contrast here. When my father was with us, we were like immune to justice. We were immune to anything that can fall on us. We could do pretty much whatever we want to do. I burned another guy's motorcycle. We were just playing with his gasoline. We're just we're just playing with it. We by accident poured something on his motorcycle. We burned it. Well, the poor guy couldn't even do anything, because the secret police actually came to his house and told him to shut up, because we are kids of the Communist Party member. I burned entire wheat field with friends, but all by accident. By accident, we're just playing with fire, and we burned the entire field. Those farmers couldn't do anything. They tried to take us to court. They were intimidated by my father and other people like my father, and of course the secret police intervened, and they were just, please shut up. That's how that's how socialism works. But when he left, that's a different story. We were hungry sometimes, but not so much. But when he left, it was quite common for us to be hungry. We did not have any more access to government stores where we could go, where party members could buy things that regular Polish citizen could not buy. So my mother has to stand at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning in line that sometimes was wrapping around the entire city, around the entire city block. And sometimes she was not able to get bread. When she got to the front of the line, the bread was sold out, it was gone. Well, then we didn't eat. So with schools, I learned pretty quick to recognize those kids of Communist Party, other Communist Party members by their sandwiches. They have like fantastic sandwiches. I always like, for me, and don't take me wrong, I was happy with it when my mom sent me with the bread with sprinkled sugar on it and water, or sometimes when it was good, it was with the tea and then sugar.
Mm.
Well, I was happy, but then when I see those sandwiches with ham, good God, that's such a luxury, having a ham, the lettuce, the mayonnaise, all that stuff. I was just like salivating. So one time I was just like, I lost it. I walked up to the guys and I just grabbed his sandwich and bite it. It's like, that tastes so good. So I tell you what, tomorrow you go tell your parents that you wanted 2 sandwiches. So I will have one, you will have one. I will be okay. If you bring just one, you won't eat. And I was kind of bully at the time too. So it was not very difficult for me to intimidate other kids. And he did bring me the sandwich. And from then on, I said, bring it every day. If he forgot, then he didn't eat. And but this is also when I started to learning that violence works. If it didn't work for you, means you didn't apply enough of it. So that's how those are the beginnings. It is not like this today. Please remember, I'm American. I live in different society with different moral values, and this is something that in Poland today would never happen, because a kid like this would be persecuted or would be removed from school. But at that time, that was normal. The violence was normal. People, when they were fighting, beating each other on the street, that was nothing unusual at the time, or seeing drunk people on the street. People just didn't pay attention. They just cross the street, walk around the fight, and keep going. Nobody even bothered to call for the police. Because the police come in, it was just a joke. I mean, it was not the joke for the fighting, but they wouldn't do anything. They didn't really care about it. Now, if you fight, it's just so normal that why bother? Most of the time, they didn't even respond. Unless the police on the street, because in Poland at the time they had the patrols, walking patrols on the street, and the police could stop, and they randomly stop citizens, asking them for the documents. And in Poland, you had to have the kind of like personal document. Everybody had to have it. Everybody over 18 years old had to have this little booklet, and there was his name, his parents' name, his mother's maiden name, the parents' birthday, the type of at that time they classified people intelligentsia or worker, physical worker, or so there was written that if you are physical worker or you are part of the intelligentsia group, and then your place where you live and where you ever work in your life. So if you didn't have that book with you, most likely they would just detain you for a day. They would drive you on the police station until they could verify that you are who you say you are. And then they told you, like, they give you like a mandate ticket that you had to pay. They send you home, and they told you don't ever forget that book again. That was just your pass to leave, in the society. You didn't have a book, basically it didn't exist. So yeah, that was very, very strange. Now I'm thinking about it too. And at that time, I didn't see nothing unusual about it because I was born into this system.
Right.
But now when I look at it, it's just, it's sad, but this is how socialism works. They need that control, because otherwise people will hang these communists and socialists from the lantern posts. This is how poor people hated the system that made them so poor.
That's probably why they didn't stop any fights either, right? If they can keep the population fighting against each other, they're not rising up.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They didn't. There's for 2 reasons. One, there was the society at the time. Please remember, they just recovered from Second World War, from the brutality of German Adolf Hitler socialism, National Socialism, but on the top of it, it was very convenient for the socialist state to have people divided, fighting with each other. And when they were fighting on the street, that was like considered a minor thing, no big deal. But there was more and more people grow divided, like, hey, we don't have any protection, we don't have and then we were just attacked, and there's nothing was done, that discontent was growing. And but when they were busy, when people were busy fighting with each other, the socialist state, the socialist government could actually go steal your job, take control of the jobs, take control of the different state entities, to the point that basically you could not do anything about anything. You just had to live by the rules that Communist Party, because the socialist state was run by Communist Party in Poland, and communists, Marxists, another scam. So yeah, that would allow them that control, allow them those divisions. So this is something like I see here sometimes, the attack on in America, on our family values, our faith, our patriotism, and this is very new to many people here, because they never experienced socialism, and I'm glad they didn't. We just must not allow it the socialists to take roots here. But so here in America, people are not accustomed to it, not familiar with this type of attacks, activity by government. In Poland, that was kind of normal. This is something you could expect. The more immoral society was, the easier it was to control. The more divided society was, the easiest to control. Faith was the big obstacle to communists like my father, because they wanted people to be more on the side of virtual morality, morality that is, how do they explain the best way? Is something that people do not, your morality is based usually on your faith, your beliefs, but that is a very inconvenient thing for communists. They want you to be based on the ideology, on the particular politicians. And as we know, politicians change here, there. They call it relative morality. That's the word, relative morality. So you are not based, your faith, your morality is not based on faith, your moral values that are universal. It's based on politician, and today's on particular day, the beliefs. And as we know, politicians change, their beliefs change, and if you do not have solid moral anchor, you will sway left and right, and eventually will be the base of any morality. So this is the best example of it, is the Adolf Hitler's socialism, where today people are asking why Germans how they could allow these things to take place, the Holocaust, the euthanasia or handicapped people, of the murders in concentration camp, just like that. The Adolf Hitler and his politicians were able to persuade people that that socialism is good, that National Socialism is good, that this is the way to live, and they need to go subscribe to it. If they do, they will be all happy, and a lot of people did subscribe to it, and that's why we end up with the Second World War and all the atrocities. Socialism is not good, whether it is Adolf Hitler socialism, the National Socialism, or whether it is Joseph Stalin socialism, or if this is Gomulka, as Polish leader from those times, Gomulka's socialism. Whatever socialism it is, that please remember that every single one have so many things, very many things in common, like violence, intimidation, political prisoners, political assassinations, and we need to be aware of it, because I see a lot of people enamored with socialism, but they don't know where it leads and they never learn it. If they learn history, if they read about history, they would know it. They would be afraid. We should be afraid of it.
And you can see a little bit of that happening in the United States right now with both the relative morality, as well as, I believe, that mixed with the fear side, right? You're capturing 90% of the people. Now you only have to worry about 10%. So we see different parties or different groups of people. They start to, single out certain groups of people, whether it's right or left or whatever. It's usually the people really on the outside of the fringe, right? But attacks on the Catholic faith, the attacks on the Christian faith, attacks, making it seem like, it's hocus pocus, kind of, just like your father thought, right? It's not as hardcore.
Intolerant.
Yes, intolerant.
Intolerance. But also we need to be remembered that uneducated tolerance is as dangerous as intolerance. We need to educate ourselves what we are about to tolerate and what it is, because if we don't, we're going to end up in a really bad spot. But please remember, America is not a socialist state, and I hope it never will be. And America traditions, America are very different too than the European states. America was built on personal freedom, on goodness. This is something that communists here in America, because we have these bastards, they have a hard time to remove from our citizens' side the personal freedom, the goodness. And it is not the way I don't see it. A fight between Republicans and Democrats. They all are good American people. They have their values. Maybe they maybe see the country working a little bit differently from the Democrat perspective and the Republican perspective. But we can all come to agreement. We can also, we can talk. I'm talking about the fight evil against the good, and evil fighting together. Evil fights against good. That's what we need to pay attention to, because the perversion that is being thrown on our society, the forceful acceptance of certain terms or words or ideas, and is very dangerous. That's just something that would only happen in totalitarian state, oppressive totalitarian state. So we must not allow anybody to tell us, how I must feel about certain things, or what I'm allowed to say, what I'm not allowed to say. That's very dangerous. So please, the censorship is very dangerous, because those who control information, they control minds. And if we have the wrong people controlling the information, we can destroy America, because America cannot be destroyed from outside. There is no force in the world that could threaten us. There's never going to be a bunch of Chinese guys landing on our beaches and taking over our country. It's never going to happen. The Chinese will be landing, or Russians landing on our land on parachutes and taking over our country. This can be only done from inside. And that's what we need to pay attention. Because if we have a spies, we don't have to have a spies. If we have purchased politicians, if we have a party controlled by foreign powers, this will be demise of America, and we must not allow that. It's very important that we pay attention to politicians and who we elect into office.
Agreed. And that going back to the whole sandwich thing, and fast forwarding until you got arrested, it seemed like in the book there was just this constant theme of, you found that you could fight back through certain ways. It may not have been positive, going up, fighting out in the street and with drunks and all that kind of stuff. But it led you to this pinnacle of becoming this activist, and the most dangerous weapon you were using, and that was a typewriter, right? So yes. Kind of tell us about that.
Yes, actually at that time in Poland, having unregistered typewriter, I believe you could go to prison for that. That was more dangerous than gun, knives, and anything else. This is something that Communist Party was in fear of, always. The independent flow of information. This is why the censorship was so strict. And again, like I say earlier, those who control information, they control minds. So yeah, I got involved eventually in the Solidarity trade union in Poland in 1980s. And then when communists like my father attacked that trade union, well, that trade union eventually became the social movement. 1/3 of Polish adults belonged to this Solidarity trade union movement. And again, that was no longer trade union, there was more social movement in Poland, more opposing the socialism and communism. So I got involved in it. And that was the first time that people actually tasted a little bit of freedom in Poland. It was after the visit of John Paul II, the Pope, when he came in 1978 or 79, 1979, to Poland, 78 maybe. And he encouraged people to stand up, to be free, not to be afraid of communist and socialist terror. And people did. That's how they built that big trade union that turned into the social movement. So communists like my father, they were losing their mind. They didn't know what to do about it. No matter what they said, people never believed them. But you know what? Let me take a few steps back here. So they were so prominent in Polish society to listen. I mean, prominent in Polish society at the time. The communist propaganda was so pervasive. People were hungry, like myself. People didn't have couldn't able to buy clothes sometimes, very often. But the communist propaganda was saying how great it is. We are the greatest system in the world. We have the greatest economy. And people were laughing at it, but it was like, throwing shit in the wall and see what will stick. That's what communists used to do. So you are hungry, but they will tell you like, no, you cannot be hungry. You live in socialism. This is the best state in the world. So yeah, it is. It's not bad. It's great. Our system is great. Where everybody knew how bad it was. And also another thing, at the time, because of the powerful censorship and the control of society, people did not know that how big majority they were opposing socialism. Many people thought that there was just only few of them. And certainly I did believe that. I thought that's way too, that there's really very few people opposing socialism for some reason. Even if you are so poor, everybody supports socialism. Everybody is pro. But it was absolutely not true. A good example is the visit of Pope in Poland in the 70s, when the fake news media was portraying that it's just some guy showed up in Poland and maybe few people come to visit him to church. They never showed the pictures of entire city blocks crowded with people trying to see the Pope. The thousands, not 10, 20,000, 100,000 people in each city were coming to visit him. But the pictures now today, after the classification of many documents, you can see entire city blocks filled with people. So this is something that I never knew about at the time when I was growing up, because the fake news media portrayed us like there's nobody interested in this guy. It's just a guy showed up. So yeah, that's how pervasive it was. So I got involved in Solidarity trade union, and so finally communists couldn't take it anymore. They decided to impose martial law and eliminate opposition and destroy the trade union movement. They did. So December 13, 1981, they imposed martial law. They arrested, there's different estimates from I think from 15,000 to 60,000 people arrested in one night across Poland. So they had already lists prepared secretly who needs to be arrested. And then on December 13, they shut down communications, telephones, TV, radio stations. Everything went blank at midnight, and arrests started. The police, the secret police, and military started raiding houses and homes of oppositions or people from the list and arresting them. So that was the December 13. Then of course, communists came on TV and proclaimed that they are saving Poland. So they are arresting criminals, people who were trying to kill, overthrow the government. And those are people, those are bad people. And some of them were just naive. So these naive people, they're still need to be arrested. But also there have people on their list. This their words. This is how they explain it to us when I was there. That there are some people, they don't like socialism, and they need to be just removed from society for a time being, and they are not arrested. They are being interned, so they are not criminals. They are just internees. They live in the hotels, vacation centers, which of course was a lie. They were living in the prison, the same prisons I was sitting in. But that was their mantra. Because another thing what socialists were very adamant about was not to make impression that they hold political prisoners. So everybody that was sitting in prisons, including myself, were criminals because we broke the law. Now, you would ask what the law it was. Well, you were printing newspaper without the permission from government. You were printing, you were speaking against the martial law. And you didn't have a permission to speak. So you will be, you are criminal, you broke the law. But we know that laws in Poland at that time were weaponized to punish and opposition, to lock up people opposing socialism and socialist state. So many of us, like me, were branded criminals because we disagree with socialist state. But people who didn't do anything, they were still arrested, but they were called internees, and they were kept in isolation in different prisons. Sometimes there were centers. So yeah, there was thousands and thousands of people removed from the homes, from families, and placed in the government custody. That's how socialism works.
I don't want to make no bones about it either. It wasn't like you got pulled over on the side of the road and the police officer said, please come out, you're under arrest, anything like that.
No, they break your doors. They break your doors. They pound on your door if you didn't open. If you open, they just trample you. They just run up, grab you, and just run out with you from the apartment. So the kids and wives, mothers, they were just standing there watching what happened. Their son or their husband were just kidnapped from the house by secret police or by the military, and they didn't know if they can come back, if they would ever come back. So that was the big fear too. We didn't know what will happen. There was even possibility that those arrested or detained will be shipped to Soviet Union at the time, to Siberia. So there's clear fear about it.
Couple of big lessons in there, when we're warning about any sort of socialism in the United States. A couple things that I'm hearing is whenever anybody tries to shut down people gathering, that should really raise our ears. And anybody who's trying to control information.
There are warning signs for. I'm not talking about the United States, but there are warning signs of any state leaning towards totalitarianism, towards oppression, towards persecution. And we need to just watch out for it. I describe these signs, these signals in my book, The Pledge to America, where people can read about it and can learn. And there are states that, in Venezuela, they were already before the indications that this country will turn into oppressive totalitarian state under the socialist regime. There was the same thing is happening in Brazil. And very often these events are instigated by foreign actors, foreign powerful billionaires and bankers who see the borders as an obstacle in them doing business, and they need people to be controlled and not just, and the freedom is big no-no for these bankers. So not everything is spontaneous as we think it is, whether it is Brazil, Venezuela, whenever it was Poland, that was all well organized by foreign entities. as well. But please remember too that I'm talking about foreign entities, but it was all carried out by the native people from that particular nation. So in Soviet Union, there was no Poles or Czechs killing these poor Russians. There were Russians killing Russians. In Poland, after Second World War, when the Russians died, there were not Russians killing Poles. There were Poles killing Poles. The Poles indoctrinated into socialism and communism. In Czechoslovakia, same thing. There was not Russians killing Czechs. Well, there were some specific, very prominent cases maybe, but most of the time there were Czechs killing Czechs. In East Germany, there were not Russians killing East Germans. There were East Germans killing East Germans, the Stasi. And please remember too, when I see people beat up or call out Russians, every Russian, about, yeah, that's Putin is so bad, you guys, you don't belong here, you guys are so bad. These people, Russians, are people who experience the atrocity of socialism and communism the most. These people oppose the socialism and communism more than anybody else in the world. So they are not necessarily bad people. They are not bad people. I think they are good people, a lot of them. They were able to finally free themselves from socialism. Russia is no longer a socialist state nor communist state. We need to remember that. So these people were eventually, after 6-7 decades, freed themselves from the yoke of socialism. And again, same thing in Poland and other countries. So but it takes decades. Once you fall into the clause, under the clause of socialism, you cannot just walk away from it, because the laws will be changed, the mechanism will be placed in place to prevent any voting upsets. So this in Poland, we used to call it socialist elections. Socialist elections in Poland were elections where socialists and communists always won. And they was done by the fraudulent elections. That's another hallmark of totalitarian oppressive state. Not most of the time it will be socialist state, but the fraudulent election is one of the biggest indicators that we are falling into totalitarian state. America is not totalitarian state. We need to remember it. We just must not allow it to fall into the claws of these bandits and our enemies.
Agreed, 100%.
Yes.
So we leave off, you're in prison after having guns put in your face. They pick you up, they take you into prison. You spend some time in there, of course. Applying the right amount of violence served you well in prison. So for the listeners out there, they're probably wondering why you're sitting in front of us here, speaking to us about this after being in this socialist prison. So can you explain how you got out of prison and what it was like for you after that?
I received the 3 years prison sentence, but we were released early when John Paul II, Pope, was coming to Poland for the second time, and he demanded from the socialist regime to release political prisoners. They released most, not everybody, but most of the political prisoners were released before his visit. I was one of them. But then life in Poland became very dangerous, and I didn't want to find. My family found me suicided or killed by socialist regime. I had to do something, so I went to U.S. Embassy and I asked for help, and I was helped. I was out of Poland, I think, within maybe 3 months after providing all the documents and documentations, what happened to me and what is going on with me right now. So I really appreciate it. I will never forget that. And so I think not even a year, I think after release from prison, I was out of Poland, and I was through Germany. I came to America and I became a free man.
And so it begins. Your first taste of freedom, starting at the embassy, noticing that there's quite a bit different. getting here to the United States, there was a lot of people who helped you along the way. Whether it was for church
I
organizations.
am what I am. Yeah, and I have to say that I am what I am today only because of American people and because the American ideals, because the way America is. I was provided with everything. When I came to America, basically I didn't speak English. I had a bag of clothes. That was it. And everything that I have, that I own today, I owe to America and American people. Yes, from clothes, from even money for food or for just food. There was always somebody in my apartment. Hey, do you have something to eat? There's people coming, making sure that I have food on my shelves and stuff. They provide me with the job, the first job that I found. I was a janitor and at school, and they found these apartments for me so I could live. An apartment. I shall have to say something a bit more about this. But apartment here is just an apartment, but in Poland, it's not like a living quarter. Apartment at that time means something grandiose, something big, something great. So when I call my mom, say, "Mom, I have an apartment. I'm living, and I even have climatizations." My mom just couldn't believe. She said, like, "Climatizations? How much that? Are you a millionaire yet?" I was like, "No, mom, it's not millionaire. In America, it's normal. This is how people live. This is how free people live." So she was right besides herself, because we never thought that we didn't think we ever see again each other when I left Poland. So I could only call her, and I remember that when I was telling her, she was so happy that, yeah, finally I can live my life without looking over my shoulder or without worrying being killed or murdered by socialist regime. So yeah, that's yeah. And,
So just one of the different. Oh, sorry, Drago. Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying that this still is so fresh in my heart. The help that I got, the goodness that I encountered in America, and I want to be the same. So this is like there's where I would like we talk about the violence. It works. If it didn't work for you, it means it didn't apply enough of it. That worked well in the post-Second World War Poland. It would never work in America. This is not how America is. Right. And it would never work in today's Poland, the free from socialism Poland. Poland is free. It's more like America today. People are smiling. People are saying hi to you. Before, if you look somebody in the eyes, they'll say, "What are you looking at? What's wrong with you? What do you want?" Now it's so different. That once Poland shook that socialism off the shoulders, when it became a free country, it changed. Now the people are different, the behavior is different. If you behave like I did in communist state, I would be in prison in Poland today or here. Right. But I'm not. I'm a different person. I am American now. So, and this is another thing. I am not Polish American. I am not something hyphen American. There is no hyphen in front of this American. So,
amen. I love that viewpoint. I find it amazing too, and I say I find it amazing like it's miraculous, but I believe it's just your, and just is the wrong word too, but how wholly you invested into your freedom and into being an American. You quickly went from that janitor job, you worked you were basically calling on auto parts, if I picked that up correctly. You became a mechanic. You did all these things, but you did them with all your heart, which is something that I found really interesting about your story. And then it landed you in the perfect position to take your next leap into service for our country. So just kind of go through that transition that you went from that janitor to becoming a SEAL. I think that's an awesome story, Drago.
Yeah, it's kind of different, but yes. So when I came to America, I was helped by American people. I got the job as a janitor in the church. I was and I was working. I was so happy. My dream at the time when I came to America, my dream was one day I will buy myself a U-Haul. I might put the bed inside, cut the windows out, or some of those like mini buses with the windows. So I'm going to go and make the bed up there, fix myself a little tiny kitchen, make the bathroom and shower, and I'm set for life. That was my dream, and my wife is still laughing at it today. But that was my dream. This is how I imagined my success in America, and of course, it didn't happen this way because as I started building my life from janitor, I went to different job where I was making a bit more money. Then eventually I ended up and having more freedom also to learn about America. And then eventually I became working for parts department in car dealership, and eventually became automotive mechanic. I was mechanic for Saab and Mercedes in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. So that was the progression. But please remember that that would not be possible. That would not be possible in any other country in the world. It would not be possible without help from American people. This is why it is. It still tugs my heart when I think about it, about these people who didn't know me from Adam. They were coming, make sure that I have enough food, that I have enough, that I have everything I need to live and do well. So I will never forget that. And again, that my success in America wouldn't be possible without the way America is, without American people, the way American people are, and without that personal freedom that we enjoy in America. So
yes, that's awesome to hear.
But I would like to also make another point that people like to concentrate on how poor I was and how that's like so bad, so oppressive. Mine was the oppression of government and those political killings and political imprisonment. We have in America poor people. And I found that these poor people are the most patriotic people, the most America-loving people, I think, in the world. I learned from them. So this is something that we don't pay attention. I hear sometimes, well, there's some trailer neighborhood, but if you go to this trailer neighborhood, you can see American flag on every single trailer. You can see American flag, people wearing and being proud of it, and that just makes my heart warm. There's people love America, and there is so much to love about it. There is so much to learn about America that it's just. I have a dream. I never said it before, but this is something my dream was always, like when I was mature, when I left, after I retired from the Navy, I was thinking maybe one day if I become a millionaire, what I would like to do is I would like to make every child in America to have a free healthcare. I know maybe some people might say, well, people can work for it. Well, yes, but you know what? We are a rich and powerful country. So I don't think anything wrong with at least providing parents with that security for their children, because I cannot imagine the tragedy and the feelings of parent who has to make decision. I pay the rent or I pay for my child medical care. Here I pay for my child medical care, but we live on the street. I don't have a place to take this child to. So this is my dream. If I become millionaire, billionaire one day, that's what I will do. That's what I will try to do. Provide or make sure that every child, every American child has medical care, free medical care, so parents can move on with their lives and don't worry about it.
That's huge. So just to share a little personal example from my life, I spent some time in jail too. It was an American jail, so probably nothing like your experience. But I have a past of drug abuse, and I went to jail for a little while. While I was in jail, my ex-wife had abandoned our children at a babysitter's house. So I got out of jail, and I didn't have anything to my name because she had sold everything while I was sitting in jail and, moved and everything like that. Then all of a sudden I get custody of my kids too, right afterwards, because she had abandoned them. Anyways, it wouldn't have been for the help or I wouldn't be where I'm at today without the help of people either, right? There was a lady in our
That's America.
community.
That's the goodness of America, that we
Yes.
take very often for granted. But, let me just say something about it, because in America, people are born with these good ideas, with this goodness in them, that they don't see it. It's so transparent to them. I think I asked a friend of mine, what were you thinking when you were helping this person? Why did you help her? What do you mean? I just like, those are the right thing to do. It's normal. This is how we are. That's how America is. It is normal, but it is not normal anywhere else in the world, around the world. It's normal in America. You just don't think about it. So transparent. You don't dwell on it. Oh yeah, I helped somebody. I was able to do this or that. You just do it because that's the right thing to do. And this is such a great thing about America. We are good people. I say we because I am American.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that just warms my heart, hearing about that, and your dream to help these people that struggle for medical care. It's not like you're gonna, give them everything in the world, right? You're taking one burden off their plate so that they can focus on what's important at the time, right? And then that gives them a chance to pay it back later in life. They can, pay it to the next person.
The healthy child, well-educated child is the best payback I think we all can have for anything we do for these children. So, and because remember, these children are our future. How we teach them, how we educate them, this is how we will be later living, how we live later. So it is important that we educate them and that we protect them. It is very important that we protect them, and medical security for these children and parents, I think is very close to my heart. So,
1,000%.
One day.
And when
I become that millionaire, I can do it. I can do more.
When I become a billionaire, I'm going to help you in that mission, Drago.
Awesome.
So going back into, where we left off was you were working as a mechanic. Fast forward a little bit of time and you meet this girl. She loves to jump out of airplanes, or wants to jump out of airplanes. You fall in love with it, I guess, is the best way to put it. And this kind of opened the next
not with her, more with jumping. So those again I met, and we turned out like each other, and she told me about her jumping, skydiving, and parachuting. So I figured out, like, wow, I never thought about it. But look, this is America. I can do that. Why not? I just go find it. At that time, there was no internet. So I took the telephone book, this yellow pages, found skydiving center, West Tennessee Skydiving Center. Still remember, I went up there and say, I'm going to jump too. If she can jump, why I can't jump? I want to see what she talked about it so nicely that I just had to try it. So when I show up there, I didn't know anything. It's like, hey, can I just get a parachute and jump? It's like, no, but you cannot just take a parachute and jump. We need to teach you that. But we recommend that you do the tandem jump first. It was the instructor's name was Reggie. I wish I remember the last name, Reggie and Sarah. It was like great people. So they say I have to make a tandem jump, and then we can talk. I say, okay. So I made the first tandem jump, and I was hooked. I said, okay, can I do one more? They were pretty expensive at the time, for me at least. So yeah, you can do one more. So I did one more. So then I said, okay, now can I jump on my own? Nope, you have to go to the training. I think there was the 7 jumps, and AFF at the time was the training they were conducting in the West Tennessee skydiving. So I said, sure, I want to do it. How does it go? Tell me about it. So say, well, I usually take a week or a couple of weeks, just come one day, make a jump, another day, make a jump, maybe on the weekend, make it 2 jumps, then on the another weekend, make it 2 jumps. Within a couple of weeks, you should be able to jump on your own. So I say, okay, how about if I just pay for the whole course and we start this coming week? Because it was Sunday at the time, that was on the weekend there. They say, okay, we can start on Thursday. And I say, okay. So I show up on Thursday, and on Saturday I was skydiving on my own. Actually, I graduated from the AFF program, and Saturday I borrowed the parachute and then start skydiving. Eventually, I purchased used parachute, and then I was hooked. I was making sometimes 10 jumps a day if it was possible. Usually on those boogie days, what we call it, where we have all these skydivers from around the city or from different cities coming to our drop zone, and we're all skydiving. It was fantastic. I mean, I loved the life at the time. So yeah, I was making decent money. I was mechanic, and I love skydiving. I got hooked on skydiving. I got addicted to it.
Do you still like to jump today?
I don't jump today because of the injuries that I have from war, and I have to be a little bit more careful. So I don't, but I still love it. I like to watch it. I like to talk to people skydiving. I guess now that's my skydiving. Just listen to people skydiving.
It's kind of like those kids who watch YouTube videos of playing with toys, right?
Yeah.
So during this time, you wanted to serve your country, so you actually applied for the Army.
Well, yes. So at that time, the first Persian War broke up, and it happened that I just became U.S. citizen. I passed the test. I prepared myself for the test. I passed the test, and I was awarded American citizenship. So I figured out, well, what the best way I can pay back for my freedom. I think there is a war. America needs people, so I'm going to sign up, fight the war. When the war is over, I will just come back to my normal good life that I had and continue. But I just put my good life on the break, go help America, and then come back. Well, I never come back. I never came back because it was a great life, and I kind of ended up serving 20 years. But that was my belief was that it's my moral obligation to support my America, my country, and I figured out the best way, most effective way I can do is by joining military. By that time, I didn't know how to do it, so I didn't know how to join. I figured out. I seen the post office those selective enlistment. No, what was the name of it? There's a registration card for.
Yeah, the 18-year-old registration.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know any better. I thought there's a contract. I thought I would sign up. There is a war. They'll just call me and say, "Come on in." That's one naive, right? But so I sent out, and I went back to my apartment, and I told the skydiving drops and the guys, "I'm leaving. I'll be back after war." It's like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to war." "Why would you go to war? Who is taking you to war?" I say, "No, I'm volunteering. I want to go to war because America is at war. I want to help." And they were like, laugh, but say, how did you go about it? I say, "I filled the card." And so I packed my stuff, but like 30 days later, the letter came in that I'm too old and they don't really need me there. That's just for young kids. And so I show my friends, they say, no, this is not how you do it. You need to go to recruiting office. At that time, I had no idea. I didn't know the difference between Navy, Army. For me, it was just military. So I said, I see the Army recruiting office. I went there, I said, I want to join and I want to go to war. And they said, so we start talking, and they're like, any preferences, where you would like to serve? I said, well, I don't really care, as long as the best would be to the unit that goes to war first. So they said, okay, we'll figure something out for you. So they proceed on the paperwork, the clearances, the checks, and it was pretty much everything done. And I think there was like maybe third month that Navy SEALs came to Memphis, Tennessee. They were doing some demo jumps, demonstrational jumps. They were called leapfrogs at the time. They still exist today. And so, of course, in time off, they came to our drop zone to skydive. So I had a chance to jump with them. I told them what I'm planning to do. And they were very quick. Like, say, well, Army is great, but you need to try Navy. And I say, okay, what's about the Navy? So I say, well, we are Navy SEALs. They told me a little bit about it. And they told me a little bit more about it. And I was like, wow, I think I like it. So I went to the Navy recruiting office, like they told me, and I told them that, yeah, I already work with the Army recruiters. they're about to complete all my paperwork. I'm ready to enlist, but I just met Navy SEALs, and they're like, "Oh, Navy SEALs, okay." So I say, they told me to come and talk to you. So they were very quick. They set me up. They showed me this Navy SEAL movie from the like a recruiting movie, and I was all hooked. And they, but then they said, well, since you are so old, I was over 30 years old. I think I was like going 32 at the time, and say, we cannot just send you into SEAL training pipeline. There was a DIFER program at the time, but I tell you what, we just sign you up. You sign these papers, you go to boot camp, they will make you a SEAL for sure. It's like, okay, I didn't really care too much. I loved what I heard, what I learned about Navy SEALs at the time, but that was not my motivation to join military. My motivation was that America is at war and I can help, so I will help. And so when they say, well, we're gonna send you to, since you work with parachutes, you skydive, how about being parachute rigger in the Navy, just in case you don't make through the SEAL training, or just even before going to SEAL training, you have to have a job in the Navy at the time. So I said, yeah, parachute rigging sounds good to me. So we start working on it, and they call me and say, hey, if you go to parachute rigging school, it starts on such and such day. To attend that school, you need to go to boot camp on such and such day to be able to catch that school, or you will have to wait 6 months. So I say, 6 months, the war might be over. So, take me in. So when am I leaving? Next week. I say, okay. So I call my girlfriend at the time. And I say, hey, look, we need to get married. What? Why? What? I said, like, we need to get married. I'm going to the Navy, and I'm leaving next week. I don't know. I thought I'd be fired from being a boyfriend, but no. And then so she ran up to downtown. We went, found the judge. It was almost after hours. He was actually leaving his office. We kind of like begged him to marry us. So he went and married us. We paid for it and stuff, and we were married. So and I think on Thursday I went, got sworn into that delayed entry program, and I think on Saturday I left. Saturday or Sunday, I left the boot camp, and the rest is the story. So yeah, and it happened that I went to boot camp, then I went to A school. I became parachute rigger, and then I applied for the SEAL training again, and with hiccups here and there, eventually I ended up in the SEAL training, and then 20 years later I retired from the Navy.
That's amazing. And there's quite a few stories. I won't give them all away in the book, but you got to meet some tremendous people along the way in the journey in the SEALs.
Yes. No, there wouldn't be a Drago in SEAL teams if not people like Jocko Willink, Mr. F, QF, Mr. B. When I'm not using the last name is because I didn't clear with them of bringing their name up in public. They may not want it. I didn't have a chance to contact them yet. But then people like Chris Stroop, one of the strongest guys in the SEAL teams I ever met, and Chris Stroop and Jocko, those are the people I think you could not challenge. And I don't know anybody who could challenge these guys in physical fight. So they were great guys. They're Rob O'Neill. We were together in the same platoon. Actually, we were in the platoon that hijacked the Russian tanker. Actually, according to Jocko, I should say, we did VBSS operation, vessel boarding, search, and seizure. So, but we just grabbed the tanker and from Russians and turned over to, because they were smuggling oil. They were bad guys. And there's many more people. My heroes like Ryan Parrott, Birdman. Many people are thinking, I thought too, that the Birdman is because his name is Parrott. No, the Birdman is because the guy is a legend too. When there was his Humvee actually ran in Iraq on IED, and they got blown up. So apparently he flew like a bird, with like flying out of it, foul, way out of the Humvee, which was totally destroyed by it. So this guy, what he does, he's all burned up he's injured. He runs back into the X where all this the mayhem is going on, and starts saving lives, and bring and make sure that those people are being pulled out from Humvee, taken to safe place. He's doing it. There's people like this. Now there's Marcus Luttrell. Good God, I mean, these people inspired me. And you know, I was older than most of them, but I was looking up to them. I want to be like them. And there's many other people that clear with Joel Lambert. This is the guy who actually I own much more even than that, because he helped me to, after the war, to polish myself, to get me he got me a clothes, because I didn't even have the right clothes. I was trying to date, I was trying to find a girlfriend, trying to build a family. And he just looked at the struggle and say, Drago, you're not going to find somebody walking in the rags like that. War is war, you know. That was good, but it doesn't work like this in civilian world. We need to get you a clothes. So him and the other guys, they just got me to the clothing store. They bought me all the clothes, boots, shoes, shirts, t-shirts. Because until then, I had a jeans and a white t-shirt. But when I wanted to be fancy, I was wearing black jeans and white and black t-shirt. So that was that. So yeah, they bought all the clothes. They helped me, you know, kind of polish myself. And I described it in the book here too. I was so bad that at one point we were invited by some Hollywood elites to attend like a Hollywood party somewhere. So me, Joel, and other guys, we just walk up to the door. We knock on the door, and it's like old lady, all wrinkled up, opened it up the door and say, "Oh yeah, come on in, come on in." And then she looked at me. I was like a little bit behind, and you can tell her face just got like even more wrinkled up. She like put that figure. Who is that? It's like, he's with us. He's one of us. Oh no! So you guys all get out. This is not party for bums. You don't belong here, basically. So I felt so bad for these guys. I say, look, I just go to the bar. You guys go up there. I'll meet you later after that. But again, I say, fuck this old lady. We go out to the bar. And we went to the bar.
Now those are
so
brothers.
yeah, there's so much I owe to these guys. So much, such a great people. And you know, I'm saying this too because I want to put human face or us and on these guys, because everybody, when I talk, or most of the people, they see us as the guys in the uniform with the night vision on, gun in the hand, killing the bad guys, and that's not all we are. I mean, we are these guys, but we are also humans, and we have normal lives too. At least we try to make our normal lives, and so I'm just trying to bring maybe a little bit human face to this inhumane profession, what some people call it.
So I do want to go back. You mentioned Jocko Willink. I told you yesterday.
Yes, I'm just drinking his drink here too. I don't know if you can see.
Which one is it?
As a go, the black cherry vanilla is my favorite one.
Oh, nice.
But if I went to dealership today, talked to some salespeople, and I gave them I had those three of them, the new Jocko. So I went to GNC store, because you can buy Go in GNC store. So I went up to GNC, bought all of them. I have post some pictures later on my Instagram with these people. Yeah, so everybody's holding Jocko's drink.
Nice,
and,
nice. Jocko, in between 2019, 2020, you know, I only got to meet him for a few seconds, but the company that I work for during the daytime, we hired Echelon Front to come in and do leadership training. I got the privilege of working with his team over 2 different workshops. Back then, I was grossly overweight. I wasn't living up to my potential. You know, I got hooked on Jocko, not just the drinks, but the books and the podcasts and everything else that he was doing. I mean, just talk about an amazing man. Totally flipped my life around at that point in time. So I owe a lot to Jocko myself, even though I hardly know him. So when you get a chance, tell him thank you from me, if you would, Drago. He's an amazing
man. Absolutely, what an amazing human being. Again, one of the hardest warriors I know, but good human person, a human being, such a good person in his heart. So yeah, that's something that he has a lot of big influence on me, on my career. And well, if we talk about it, I would like also to bring Chief Nicky Baggett. He saved my career when I was going through divorce, through all the other stuff. He was the one, actually, like the guy who actually put me back on track, put my career back on track. And so, Nicky, if you listen to it, cheers. And I'll call you later. I'll tell you. So yeah, so there is so many SEALs, and they are not just called blood killers. Those are human beings doing inhuman jobs, but they are human beings. They are such a good human beings, good Americans.
Yeah, and they're not out there doing the things that they need to be doing for our country because these are the things that they want to be doing. They're out there doing them because they have love for this country and want to make
most patriotic people I've ever met. But there's also Army, Coast Guard, Marines. We need to remember them. Those are warriors too, and they sacrifice so much. There is so many people who did not come back from war, fighting for keeping America safe. And yeah, that's we need to remember that. We need to remember these people. We need to call our fallen names loud, because they are no longer with us, but they still are alive in our minds, in our hearts. And we must not allow them to die a second time by fading from our memories. It is important that we remember them, because they gave everything for us.
100%. And there are a lot of brave men and women over the years who have done that for us. And I think everybody who's been listening to this, can see the drastic contrast in between what socialism, communism looks like in comparison to what actual freedom looks like, through your story.
I think this book will help see that contrast. And again, this book is not to be double with communism and socialism, because everybody knows how pervasive state full of depravity these are. But it is book, so when you read it, just think how great, how lucky we are that America exists. Especially for me, I consider myself the most lucky person in the world by being able to come to America, live as an American.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But with that contrast, right, we also need to remember why we have it. And that is for these, because of these brave men and women who are willing to risk everything to keep it that way.
Yes. I'm very proud. One of my sons is Marine, was Marine. He spent 1 year in Afghanistan. Another one still serves in the Coast Guard. And another one, now he made me grandfather. I'm very proud of it. My oldest son, I'm very proud of him, Adam. And then we have two other little kids. Well, they're not that little anymore, but I have a boy and girl, 14 and 15 years old.
Nice big family.
Yes.
I got a big family as well. I have 8 children, and I got a grandson and 1 granddaughter who's on the way. So growing every minute. Well, I don't want to take up your whole day here, Drago, but man, you really inspired me. I got a renewed faith of my freedom, and just a renewed sense of that overall. I hope that people go out there and buy your book and read it, because the purpose that you hit on, that you want to show everybody how great it is to have this kind of freedom, it really rings true, through that contrast. So I encourage each and every listener to go out and get this book. Once again, it's The Pledge to America by Drago. Absolutely phenomenal read. I couldn't put the dang thing down until my wife told me I had to go to bed because I had to work in the morning. So I ate through that probably in about 2.5 weeks, but I usually have to struggle a little bit more through books, but this one I did not have to at all. So once again, thank you, Drago. I appreciate the time that you spent with us here today. I appreciate your service, and I appreciate you being an American, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I would like to use this opportunity here to say thank you to all Americans for my freedom. You know, when we fought in Iraq, when we fought the wars, we didn't fight war for this or that group of Americans. We fought for every single one. And America is such a great country. There is a place for everyone, for every view, and for every you know, for every life. So let's keep this country free as it is. Let's keep this country great as it is. And thank you to all Americans for allowing me to live here in free society amongst them.
Before we totally close out, above your left shoulder, you have your Navy SEALs Fund. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, this is an organization that we built for our Navy SEAL community. And it is a little bit different because it is organized as a 501c3 charity, but we do not have paid positions. So every funds coming to organizations are going towards towards our people, our community, people who need help. So we built this organization in 2009. So we are almost 11 years now. I would like to say here a word of thank you to Duke Harbin. He is the one who was the first president of Navy SEALs Fund. He is a member of our board of directors now, and he put this organization on the map. He actually I'm going to describe the history of Navy SEALs Fund on my website, the dragodzieran.com, on the right above my head. But he built this organization. He made it big. So we all are very grateful to him and his leadership, leading Navy SEALs Fund as the first Navy SEALs Fund president. Duke, if you hear it, brother, cheers and respect. Thank you.
And the funds, they really support the families of fallen heroes.
Families of fallen heroes, and also people who are in need, on urgent need. We are able to respond very quickly. As a matter of fact, we had a case, I cannot talk details about it, but we had a case a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, when the help was needed right then, right now. And within 19 minutes, we were able to dispatch help and help this family with their issues and financial woes. So we are very quick. We don't have a lot of red tape, and we are, say, very effective. So this is the NavySealsFund.org. You can find out more on our website about us. So, yeah.
Awesome. So once again, Drago's website is above his head there, dragodzieran.com. Check out the book, check out the website. You're not going to regret it. And with that being said, go out and lead with intent.
You have just experienced the heat and pressure of the forge. Remember, words without action are meaningless. Now, after the heat of the forge, shape your thoughts, quench your brain, then put your new tools to use, adding to your leadership. Tune in next week for more lessons from the forge.